If you're a TV viewer, you'll be able to see this. If you're a radio listener, you can go pull it up for yourself. Democrats panic as indictments of Comey, Clinton, and McCabe loom. And then we have a special report where I break down my DOJ and White House sources saying Trump, as of the first of the year, had made the decision to take the gloves off. And you heard that from Ali Alexander, who's worked at the highest levels of the Republican Party, that he was told the same thing, that Trump actually, well, I was told not to share the full details of it, but let's just say he blew up. The Trump you see in public's the real Trump, where he's all focused and zenned out, but then there's the other Trump, and let's just say he turns things over and things. And he's made the decision he is coming after them. And boy, does he have the goods. So the fight is on. That's why you're seeing all this insanity. There's that headline, March 18th. There's another one. March 17th is when I got the news. Breaking, Trump preparing mass indictments of Clinton crime network. The United States is only weeks away from rebirth, but more battles lie ahead. You might want to go read those articles. You might want to go see those. Why? Zero Hedge has a very nice boil down, as they do. And the Washington Post and others, and the Wall Street Journal, are all reporting about the interrogation of Comey, about McCabe. Comey's thrown him under the bus and gone on national television and said, well, you know, it's not good to lie. And McCabe has lied. Well, yeah, he lied to the Justice Department, he lied to Congress, he lied to everybody. He also leaked criminal information. That is, the leaking was criminal. And so you see Comey moving away. Comey directed this. So the rats have left the sinking ship. They're now on pieces of driftwood fighting with each other over the scarce space as the storm blows in and the waves begin to crash, and a little piece of driftwood they're on isn't holding them up anymore, and more they're underwater, gasping for air. Those few seconds when the driftwood pops back up from under the wave, the little rat hands, little rat paws, little rat fingernails dug into the driftwood, but now the driftwood's pulling apart, and their little claws and little red eyes darting about as they hit all the panic buttons and destroy Alex Jones, destroy Trump, destroy the Americans, crush them, sue them, lie about them, help us. Let's see, you got fake lawsuits against me, and then your top people in Hollywood get indicted for rape. I'll take that tit for tat. Because we're going to give a lot more than we get. I believe in giving. And now Trump believes in giving you hell. So fill your hand. We're going to go over all of this, ladies and gentlemen. The indictments loom. No more, leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. Trump already tried that. What did Giuliani say 3 weeks ago? And then again 2 weeks ago, then again a week ago. Drop it now, stop it now, it's fake. Get out of the way. Stop trying to sabotage. Stop trying to lie about it. Stop trying to side with foreign governments, or we're going to tear you apart. We're going to tear you apart. And Trump means it. And that's why all of the world, from Saudi Arabia to North Korea, they're listening. It was always part of the negotiation that North Korea would try to ask for too much or weasel out of it, and Trump would say the summit's off. And then 4 days later, the summit's back on because North Korea rolled back over. And they might try that game again. But there's a new sheriff in town, and things are different. And we're getting 30 years of suppressed technology fast-tracked in medicine. And it's not going to be just there. I have been told by high-level sources before Trump even got in that he has been briefed by the generals on the suppressed technologies in close to free energy, beyond quantum computing, stuff that makes maglev trains look like Tinker toys, incredible sciences in plants, in farming. But the biggest area is energy, advanced spacecraft. I mean, Trump is really looking at starting to turn this loose. Globalists don't like that. The globalists are like, oh, the Chinese have lasers that can kill our satellites. Yeah, well, we had them in 1975. We had in orbit by 1978 over 100 drone attack ships that just sit there with their power off, waiting with large loads of DU Shabo rounds, meteor guns, from orbit. Now, they had that in the 70s. They accidentally declassified it in 92 in a debate on C-SPAN. So then Bob Bowman, former head of Star Wars, when it was secret, could talk about it. Colonel Bowman. Okay, now you know the truth. We are 45 years ahead of the Chi-Coms. Everything you see on the battlefield that we have is 30 to 40 years old. Just like they had the B-2 bomber for 20 years in active duty, in service before it was shown to people in 1989. My dad saw B-2 bombers, Apache helicopters, and stealth fighters when he was 10 years old in military drills that happened south of Dallas. When I was a kid driving outside Dallas, I saw stealth fighters. These stealth fighters you see today, but they were gray. 3 of them, flying at like 200 feet above the ground over farmland. That was 35 plus years ago. So just understand, the globalists had captured America and they had all those systems and were suppressing it and stealing all our technology. It's all stopping. There'll be no Chinese century as long as it's communist. I welcome a Chinese century and Renaissance, but not under the communists. There'll be none of that. Notice the crews in there of your TV viewer just searching whatever I say, they're actually finding it. I'm surprised how much this is now coming out. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, you can never keep somebody alive for sure because an artery might blow. You know, it's like putting new parts in an old car. So many parts are going bad, you got to put all new parts in it. But they can stall death 50 years now in most cases. And if you can do that, that's basically close to immortality. And that's the big secret. And they don't want you to have that. Well, Trump wants you to have that. I told you the most important thing at the inauguration was life extension technologies and other technologies. And I told you it'd be in a speech, and it was, because we're dialed in. I don't have to talk to the president to know what he's doing. We are jacked into the same spirit. And the enemy knows it. They cannot stand it, ladies and gentlemen. And Trump is for real, and he's delivering. He's not out to get you. And this is an incredible time to be alive. We're going to come back and get into the looming indictments and how these are going to go down, reportedly, and so much more of the deep state. They are in prime attack.
North Korea is accusing the U.S. of making gangster-like demands in the most recent round of talks since the Singapore summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who just wrapped up 2 days of meetings in Pyongyang, maintained his visits produced results, but said sanctions would remain for now. Joining me from Clemson, South Carolina, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, just back from a trip, so we're glad to have you here. If we could start with North Korea, there's obvious improvement in relations because you have Kim Jong-un used to say that President Trump was a dotard. Now he's actually engaging on policy, but it probably doesn't surprise you that much that the North Koreans issued this statement yesterday saying that the meeting was regrettable, saying we were robber-like, and really pouring cold water on it. What do you think of it?
I see China's hands all over this. We're in a fight with China. We buy $500 billion worth of goods from the Chinese. They buy $100 billion from us. They cheat, and President Trump wants to change the economic relationship with China. So if I were President Trump, I would not let China use North Korea to back me off on the trade dispute. We got more bullets than they do when it comes to trade. We sell them $100 billion. They sell us $500 billion. We can hurt them more than they'll hurt us. And all we're looking for is for them to stop cheating when it comes to trade. There's no doubt in my mind that it's the Chinese pulling the North Koreans back. And to our North Korean friends, can't say the word friend yet, you asked Pompeo, did he sleep well? If you knew what I knew about what we could do to the leadership of North Korea, you wouldn't sleep very well.
I thought it was, I actually really enjoyed reading about that exchange where the North Korean general's asking Mike Pompeo twice, like, surely you couldn't have slept well last night. And our Secretary of State said, oh, I slept just fine. Meanwhile, President Trump will meet one-on-one with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki next Monday. Bloomberg reports the Kremlin is working with the U.S. to have a deal that the president will accept. They say Putin has agreed in principle to U.S. and Israeli demands that Iranian-backed forces in southern Syria be kept away from Israel's border, replaced with troops loyal to the government in Damascus. That's according to 2 Kremlin advisors. Would you recommend the president agree to that deal?
Given Russia's behavior, absolutely not. Russia was supposed to make sure that Assad had no chemical weapons. The last thing you can rely upon is the Russians to take care of American and Israeli interests. There's a deal to be had in Syria. Our troops in northeastern Syria, working with the Syrian Democratic Forces, Arabs and Kurds, have demolished ISIS. And if we stay there, we have about 2,000 troops, ISIS won't come back. If we stay in northeastern Syria, Iran can't march from Tehran to Beirut. I don't trust the Russians to implement any agreement when it comes to the Iranians, but there is a way to break Iran away from Russia away from Iran, but no way can be achieved without us staying there. Our presence in northeastern Syria is an insurance policy against Assad taking over Syria and ISIS coming back and the Iranians owning the whole region.
How do you balance the cooperation that we need with Russia right now on some things with the concerns that we have with Russia on many other fronts? And how would you recommend President Trump approach that meeting next Monday in Helsinki? It will be his first one-on-one with Putin.
Well, first, when Putin denies that he was involved in our election in 2016, reject the denial. Challenge him. Don't let him deny the obvious. They're still trying to disrupt the 2018 election cycle. When it comes to Syria, we need to be partnering with Turkey to make sure that we can maintain a presence in northeastern Syria. At the end of the day, Iran is a weak economy. They've got problems in their own backyard. What we need to do is partner with Turkey and Russia and break Iran away. Iran has a different reason for being in Syria than most everybody else. Israel cannot tolerate Hezbollah and Iranian presence in Syria. If you leave Assad in power, the Arabs never will accept him, nor will the Syrian people. There's a way to get Russia pulled away from Iran, but we've got to have a presence in Iraq and Syria to be successful. In 2007, we lost 900 soldiers fighting in Iraq. In the last 3.5 years, we've lost 14. President Trump has done a good job of destroying ISIS and countering Iran. Our soldiers in Iraq and Syria are insurance policies against Iran domination and the rise of ISIS. If we keep this configuration in place, we've got some leverage regarding Russia and Iran.
You mentioned Turkey. I wanted to ask you about that. You were just on a trip where you spoke to President Erdogan. He's going to be inaugurated for, I think, 4th term tomorrow. And while Turkey has been somewhat helpful in Syria, as you mentioned, and Ambassador Hutchison just said, are you concerned that Turkey is an ally adrift, and is there a strategy to get them back on track?
Yes, they're definitely an ally adrift, but there's a new chapter in Turkish history. Erdogan won big, and he's going to have a long time to serve in Turkey, and we need to come to grips with that. We need to push them when it comes to the way they treat the press and some human rights abuses. They have Americans in captivity for no good reason. But having said that, we need to assure Turkey that the Kurdish forces we've partnered with in Syria will not present a threat to Turkey. That's a legitimate concern. Turkey has no interest in Iran dominating Damascus. At the end of the day, their economy is better off hooked up with us versus Russia and Iran. They are a NATO ally. So I came away from my meeting somewhat encouraged that we can start over with President Erdogan in a win-win fashion, securing the northeastern part of Syria in a fashion acceptable to Turkey, and they can be a better ally when it comes to pushing back against Iran and ISIS.
Did you talk to President Erdogan about this idea that they would want to buy an S-400 anti-aircraft system?
Yes.
And do you think that he wants to go forward with it? And if he does, will the Congress vote to put sanctions on Turkey, since that's allowed under the Russian Sanctions Act?
We're not going to sell Turkey the F-35, our most advanced fighter, and allow them to buy the most advanced Soviet anti-aircraft system. It would just be a matter of time before the S-400 would be used in a fashion to undermine the F-35, they have to pick. I would like them to buy the Patriot missile battery made by the United States and our partners. They are a NATO partner. They need to release Pastor Brunson, who's been held, in my view, way too long, very much illegally. But you got to remember that President Erdogan was under siege 2 years ago. There was an armed coup. I left that meeting believing that we can do business with Erdogan. You can't have the S-400. We'll find a substitute for that. If you release the prisoners that are caught up in the coup, that helps us enormously. There's a win-win situation in northeastern Syria. I think Turkey understands their future is better with the West economically, and I'd like to do a free trade agreement one day with Turkey when they get their house into order, and that would neuter Russia and Iran's influence vis-a-vis Turkey better than anything I could think of.
I wanted to bring up Pastor Andrew Brunson. I think we have a photo of him here. He's been held for 2 years. This is of great concern to the president and to the vice president. Did you get any indication that he'll be able to come home soon?
I met with him. Here's what was interesting. President Erdogan met with Senator Shaheen and myself. The next day, he let us go see Pastor Brunson, who is doing well physically, but has been in jail now way too long. He lived in Turkey for 24 years. He has nothing to do with the coup when it comes to what happened in 2016. He got caught up in a net, and he is not a threat to the people of Turkey. That is a defining issue between us and Turkey. But I'm encouraged. I don't believe he would let us go see Pastor Brunson if they were not looking for a way to end this. And they have some other embassy personnel in Turkish prison, and we need to get this issue behind us. I left Turkey thinking that after the Erdogan's election, we got a chance to do business with him better than in the past, and I hope we'll take it, because we need Turkey and they need us.
Sounds like a worthwhile trip. Let me ask you one last question, back on domestic policy. The timing of a Supreme Court nomination seems to not be better for Republicans. You're on the Judiciary Committee. You've been around before for Supreme Court nominations. How much different might this one be, and do you feel confident that the Republicans will be able to confirm one of President Trump's nominees before the midterms?
I think I got 2 words, and I heard Supreme Court and confidence. So we got a technical problem, but here's my answer. Republicans are holding 4 lottery tickets, and all of them are winners. If you're a conservative Republican, the 4 people named, particularly Thomas Heidemann, I'm glad he's on the list, are all winners, and every Republican should embrace these picks. Here's the truth. Donald Trump could nominate George Washington or John Marshall, and they couldn't get through. Maybe a handful of Democrats will vote for a Trump pick because they have to politically. I've never seen it this dysfunctional. There's nobody that President Trump could nominate from a conservative event that will get many Democratic votes. But this is a nightmare for red state Democrats to oppose a highly qualified nominee. And all 4 of these people are highly qualified, been on the court, know what they're doing, mainstream judges. So red state Democrats are going to have a very hard decision, and I hope every Republican will rally behind these picks because they're all outstanding.
All right, Senator Graham.